project.
This
It's
conference
difficult
will
to go
now
ahead.
be recorded.
Everybody created a project.
Yes, sir.
Bilal,
No, sir.
why?
I was busy with my work, sir.
Huh?
I was on work, sir.
24 hours. Do you work for 24 hours?
No, sir.
Then Abhinav, see, for me, I can go ahead and can complete the syllabus. That's not a problem. Problem is when I move ahead, you will not understand. If you have not created the project, you have not seen the files, how will I know when I talk about views, I'll talk about models, I'll talk about admin. How much time does it take to create a project? 3 commands, not even 5 minutes. I told you Django is not straightforward. It's not like one file and you put all the content there. There are multiple files you have to go and edit, right? I'll be moving from one file to another. If you have not seen it, if you have not created it, how will I move, you tell me? I can move, I can create, I can finish. But then you will wonder what happened. Okay, I mean, it's up to you. You want to learn, you can learn. If you don't want to learn, I can't come to your house and force you, right? Okay, we'll go ahead from where we left. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is our web project. Okay, so what we have done so far? We have created my polls, which is a project, right? And we have created an app called poll. So you have two folders here, my polls. So when you create a project, you'll get a folder by name my polls. And at same level, I have created an app also. Okay, so okay, so before we edit, let's run it and see once. Okay, so I'm going to go to view. Uh, or I can click here directly, let's say. Okay, so we are already in my polls. I'm going to start the server. How do you start the server? You say Python.
Manage.py run server.
Correct. Python space manage.py run server. Okay. Sure, Abhinav, you take rest. Good that you have completed. Okay. Okay, so it is up 127.0.0.1, 8000 is the port. So HTTP colon 127.0.0.1 colon 8000. Okay, so our server is up and running, right? Okay, so now we have already created our app, right? So our app is polls. Now we'll make some change in the UI. Okay. Mm, okay, so this is the app. Okay, so project is working running fine. We created this app. Now I'll go to views. Okay, anything on the UI front, anything that you want to display to the end user, we will make that changes in the views.py. So we go to views.py. Okay, this is the default code, and I'm going to add my first view. Okay, I want to create a view called as index. Okay, I want to call it as index. So I'll create a view. So the index will use HTTP response. So I need to import HTTP response. Okay, so how will I import HTTP response? So I'll say from Django.http. Okay, to handle HTTP response, we need to install or need to import HTTP response. So I'm going to say it is in Django.http. So I'm going to say from Django.http import HTTP response. Okay, we'll be using request also later. Okay, so HTTP response, and I'm going to create my first view. Okay, I'm going to say def. Okay, index. I'm going to call it as index, and I'm going to say request. Index request, and for now what we'll do is we'll simply return HTTP response. Okay, HTTP response, and I'm going to say hi, welcome to my website or something like that. Okay, okay, done. So this is index is created. Okay, view is ready, but how do we call it? Okay, so it is like I created something, okay, in home, and let's say I want to sell it. I need to inform everyone, right? If I've made a website and I've created this view, I need to tell to the world that I have created a view, right? If I don't tell you that I've created a web page, how will you know, right? So my web page has a page, okay, index, and I have to inform to the world that I have created a web page which you can access, which you can use. For that purpose, we go to URLs. Okay, okay. So in polls, okay, in polls, what I'll do is I'll create a file called as urls.py. Okay, so urls.py is the page where we will add all the web pages that we're going to create. It will have a dictionary, as the name suggests, right? So here we are going to say, oh, these are the URLs that I have created and I'll be using. Okay, so see, if you look at the project has URLs. Okay, so if you're adding anything to the project, we'll have to put here. Like for example, admin, we'll see maybe on Saturday or Sunday. Admin we are using. Okay, so it has already added admin to it. Okay, but the index that we created, we have created the index in a app, right? And I told you we can have multiple apps. Each app can have its own index file. The first thing first is we need to create a URL for this app and then link that URL to the URL, because when you log in, the project is what is maintaining all the connections. So when somebody logs into the URL will say we have one URLs. We have one more URL in polls, right? So before that, what I'm going to do is in polls, I'm going to create a new Python file Okay, call it as URLs. Okay, dot py. Okay, dot, let's say, py. Okay, so urls.py is created, and here I'm going to add what we did, right? So how do we add it? You can copy the syntax from here. Okay, okay, so it says import Django country. Okay, of course we don't need admin, but we need path. So I'm going to copy. Okay, so I'm going to copy the content from project URLs to the app URLs which I created. Okay, so I added this. Okay, so we are not using admin here, so I'm going to delete it. We are using path. Okay, and we are also talking about the views, isn't it? So we have to link it to the views. So I'm going to say from dot, I mean from everything. Okay, import from the current location. Okay, import views. Okay, so views got imported. Okay, now here URL patterns. Okay, I will leave it blank. That means even if you don't give anything, if you know, if I just simply say 8,000, I don't give any name, it will launch the views.index if I don't give anything. So sometimes when you open a website, correct, the website might be like home.php, index.html, something. But when you say amazon.com, it opens a default page. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. I'm not giving any names, so it becomes a default page. Okay, so then you have to say this default page. This is first parameter is what you type in the URL. Okay, if I don't type anything in the URL, it should open this page. Okay, so views dot index. Index is a function that we created in views, right? So we're importing views, and I'm saying here, okay, views dot index. Okay, and then what name you want to give. So I want to give name as index. Say. So two things we did. First thing, we created an index function, right? And all our logic of home page or index page will be in that function. Later we'll add it. Okay, we created our home page index. Now we have to link it to the URLs. Okay, first step, you have to link it to the URLs. So you can directly use project URL, or you can use this app URL. It's always better that we use app URLs. Everything related to app will be in app folder. So we created a URLs folder in app, and we added this entry for this index. But whenever anybody is looking at your project, okay, so it's like it's like the flight will land at the Hyderabad airport. You have your house somewhere in the city, okay, and you made a nice dish, okay, you made and you have a restaurant, let's say, and you have put a board outside the restaurant that we are making biryani. So see, when you make biryani, and if you don't put in the menu, people will not know, right? So I made biryani in views.py, and now I have kept a banner here saying we have a banner. It's like a menu card. Now people has to know about your restaurant also, isn't it? That, oh, that restaurant is serving biryani. So I have to go and change in the main settings here, this URL. So this URL already has admin project. Okay. Now we'll do include also here. Okay. Include means include all the project or apps that you have in this project. Okay. So exactly same thing. I'm going to copy here. Okay. Control C, Control V. Okay. So I'm adding this path and admin, right? So admin is the app name. So, but we created polls app. It's like you're talking about your restaurant. So I've created polls app here, and then here we'll include, okay, because this is default admin.site.url is a default one which comes with installation. So this is not default. We created our own. So whichever you have created will have a slightly different way to write. Okay, so here we say include. Okay, and then you say what to include: app name, okay, application name dot the file name. So it says, okay, URLs. We have more URLs. We have URLs in polls app. Okay, and how to which files to refer: polls.urls. Okay, so this name and this name has to match. You can give anything. You can give abc.py. Then you have to write ABC here. But URLs is the standard. Everybody knows, okay, oh, URL. So this will have URL, right? So that's why we write URLs. So now you know that we created a view in a in app. We made an entry into URLs file, and now we are telling to the project that, oh, we have a URL in polls also. We have a URLs in polls also. Now, when we create a second view, we don't have to make any changes here because this is pointing to the polls.urls. From next time onwards, when we create a new view, we can directly go and edit urls.py. We don't have to come to this project. Everybody understood what we
Sir,
did here?
I have a question.
Yes.
Um, when we open polls app index function in browser, then slash come domain name slash polls slash index.
No, no, no. See, Slack polls will do it. Okay, so I'll show you. Wait, hold on. But logic here, did you understand the logic? Why we did?
Yes, sir.
Bilal, what are the 3 steps we did today, just now? What are the 3 steps we did? We did 3 steps. First step is we created a view. We created a view. Where did we create a view? We created the view in views.py under app. Okay. So when we created a view, we have to make a entry in the app URL. So app URL file will not be created by default. Okay. So we have to create, okay, urls.py in the app. So we created that file, and inside we made an entry saying that we have a view. So this is the view. Okay. So we made an entry in the app URL, but app URL is not yet visible to the outside world. Okay. So outside world knows about the project URLs. So we went to project URL, and in that we made an entry for polls URL. 3 steps. Okay. So now when I go here, okay, I go here. Okay, if I run, okay, see, when we run the server, right, it also does the, what do you call, uh, compilation and running. So if I go and type polls here, okay, so see here, it said welcome to my site. So when I say slash polls, I'm talking about the app. Okay, so it links to the app. Now I didn't have to call index.html. By default, it called index.html. Okay, because in the urls.py, I gave blank here. Polls URLs. You see here, I gave blank. Now, if I give a, and now when I refresh it, okay, got stuck with it. So see, you got page not found. Okay, and it's telling me, see, so because I gave a, not the blank, so it is expecting a. Okay, but here you see, since I have said debug equal to true, so it gave me all the options. Says that, okay, see, URL conf is talking about 2 apps. One is admin app, one is polls app, and polls app has only one index, which is a. Okay, so we have to. I mean, it does not have blank one, so it gave me error. And since I said debug equal to true, see, since I said debug equal to true, it is giving me all the information as well. Okay, if I say div equal to false, I will not get entire information. I'll just get page not found. Okay, so I go back and I delete. So that means what I did, I said by default, when you start the app, it should point to index view. So whatever we write in an index view will be displayed here. Yes? Did you answer the question, Rajesh, now? Is this what you were asking?
No, sir, clear.
Yes. Bilal, any question? What happened, Bilal? I'm not able to hear you. Najibal, can you call Bilal and see if he can hear us?
Yes, sir, I'm doing call.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what did we do? See, first few classes, if you understand right, next is just putting the code. That's all. Okay, just putting the code. First 4-5 classes is important to understand.
Sir, Django is very confusing in lots of files.
It's not confusing, it helps you. When you create a file in WordPress or any other place, how many files you end up creating? Lot of files,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
So, so in that way, it is not lots of file, correct? It is there so that you can develop the application fast. Okay, our website is up and running in few seconds. Okay. So now, if there are no questions, we'll move ahead. We will talk about how to create database. Okay, so today our focus will be how to create database. Okay, so I just said, um, that we have default Sqlite3, which comes with default installation with Python. Okay, so we will use Sqlite. Okay, but you can use any database. Okay, I'll tell you how to add a database related string here, and similarly you can add any database. Okay. So first thing first is we go to the project and there settings.py. Okay, settings.py. Here, okay, if you go up, okay, so these are all password validators, okay, databases. So see here, already Python has added SQLite3 database settings. So we can start using db.sqlite3 database. It has automatically added SQLite. Okay, so we will not have to make, we don't have to create a database. It has already done it for us. Okay, and of course, when you are using a client-side database, it's always better to use this even on the server side. Only thing is, this is not, it is not secure. Okay, so you can create an Oracle database or MySQL, sorry, MySQL or any database, and you can connect through this. Okay, so here it says default database is db.sqlite3. This is the database name. Okay, the SQLite3, it has its own property. You have to read about it. What it does is, let's say you have, okay, so here you will see, I'll show you first. See, db.sqlite3. So db.sqlite3 database is already created automatically. We didn't do it. Okay, so the property of this is, that when you, let's say when I try to access db1, let's say I call it db1.sqlite3. When I try to access db1.sqlite3, and we don't have db1.sqlite3, isn't it? We have db.sqlite3. It will not give error. Okay, it will create a database with the name. So it has its own properties. Okay, so now if I try to access a database which is an Oracle, okay, and if I don't give correct name of database, it will say database not found. It will not connect you to the database. But in SQLite3, if the database is not there, it will create one. Okay, if it is not there, it will create one. Okay, so Okay, anyway, we have created, this is FT database. Okay, and okay, so database is already created, right? Which is Sqlite3. Now, when we create these things, okay, name and password, validators, etc., etc., these will have SQL query created automatically for admin and all. Okay, so these will have the query created. Okay, and I'll show you how to create a query in some time. Okay, that's what we are planning to do today. We'll show you the query created. Once you do the query created, okay, it will not automatically get added to the database. We need to use a command called migrate. Migrate will create all the tables, okay, all the database objects. Okay, so for example, this is the database. Okay, and these are the things that I'm using. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go to I'll go to the terminal, the run. So I'll go to the terminal here itself and Control C to stop running the server. Okay, and I'm going to say Python manage.py. Okay, now see, where is manage.py? Manage.py is outside my polls. Okay, so to call manage.py, I have to go outside the project, because if I do it here, let's see what happens. Python manage.py migrate. Okay, okay, here all these database tables and all these things were created. It is now moved to the database. Okay, so the admin module we added, password check and all those things, all the tables are created like username, last login, all these dates, because we are using admin module by default. Okay, so inbuilt admin module had some queries. Okay, so database object, all these got added to the database. So until you run migrate, the content will not go there. Okay, I'll show you how to do one now. So this is the inbuilt one. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it. Let's create one module here by ourselves. So I'm going to the app. Okay, polls. Okay, and where do we add the database related objects? MVP. Where should we add
model
our database objects?
in models.py.
Yes, the database which related things we have to add in models.py. Okay, models.py. Okay, so yes, and I'm going to create. Okay, so each table is created as a class. Okay, see, Django is based on Python, isn't it? So we have to write a Python code to create tables. Okay, so let's say I create a table. Okay, so I say class as a table name. Table name I say questions. Okay, and this has to be extending models inheritance. So models dot model. Okay, models dot model. Now, okay, so let's say I want to add two. So this is the table name. I want to add two columns to it. Okay, so I want to call first column as question text. Okay, and date. So we'll have two columns. Okay, we'll have one question text. Okay, where we'll add the questions and the date on which we added. Okay, so two columns. Okay, you'll also know how to handle date also. And here we say models dot what is the type of the value, data type of this column. So I'm going to say characters. Okay, Characters means you can add text here. And if you want to give some max length, you can say max length equal to maybe 300. That means at max it can handle 300 characters. So our first column is done. Now second column, I'm going to say date, okay, equal to models dot, okay. Now this has to be date time, right? So you have date time field, okay. And you want to give any comment, you can say okay, enter the date, something like this. Okay, so what we have done is we have created a class and the table name has to be same. So when you define the class name, we have to give the same as the table name. Then we added two text to it, two columns to it. Okay, it is done. Now, okay, now we have to create a SQL query out of this. Okay, see, we created this Python app, okay, Python code here in models. We need to create a database content, isn't it? So what we'll do is we come here, okay, and we say Python manage.py. Okay, now two things here. We did migrate. Migrate is when you already have a SQL query and you are pushing it to the database. But here we have not yet created. We have not yet created what? The SQL query. So we have to do make migration. So first we have to create migration and then migrate. Two step, make migration and migrate. So before we create migration, because see, we have done again, this is in the app. We need to make an entry in the project. Okay, so we go to settings. Okay, in settings, we have to say that we have installed a new app called polls, isn't it? So where are the apps? So this is database, apps, go to apps, see here. Okay, see this installed apps. So by default, it has installed admin, auth, content, sessions, messages, static. So these are all inbuilt apps. I need to add our own app, which we created. So I'm going to say polls, app name, dot apps, okay, dot config, polls config. Now when we do this, okay, and comma of course, we do this, that means now our polls app is now linked to this app here. Now when I go here, okay, Python manage.py, make migration. So whenever you make any changes to the code, Python code, we have to do make migration. Make migration will create migration. Okay, you see this here. Okay, when you expand this migration here, okay, there's only init.py, right? There's nothing else. Now when I say make migration what? Polls, app, the app name, and you hit enter. Okay, so there's an error here. Make migrations. Okay, see, did you mean make migrations? Okay, so this is very helpful. It is make migration, not migration. Okay, now I hit enter. So see, created model questions. Okay, it created this in 001 underscore initial.py. So when you go to this migration, okay, see, the code is created. This is the code which will create the database. See here. So the Python code is now converted into migration. Okay, so this is going to this has created in between step. Okay, from our code it has created in between step, but it has not yet passed on to the database. To pass on to the database, what we need to do is we need to say migrate. When we say migrate, okay, Python manage and here migrate. When we say migrate, it will move to the database. So see, applying polls.001 initial. Okay, that means now it has gone to the database. Now a new table is created DB3, okay, which has this table. Before this, it created multiple tables, about 13 or 14. That was for the admin related work. Yes? Did you get it?
Yes, sir.
What did we do? Today we did two things. First, we created our first view. Okay, so we created a view, then we went and created a urls.py in project, sorry, in app. We made the entry. Then we had to register this urls.py because we created new file. How will project know that you have created a new file? So we made that entry in the urls.py of the project. That's how you create, okay, a view in a app. Next, we went to database. So I told you database has two steps. Okay, first we created database by default database. Second, the code is written in the models. Model is the database. MVT, model view template. View, we did it. M, we did it. M is what? Models. View is what? The web page. So what we see at the user's end. Template we have not done. So models, we have to go and create a class. For every table, you have to create a class. For every table, you have to create a class. So we created a class. Yes, we created a class, right? Now, when you create a class, it has two steps. One is you create a make migrations. Make migrations will create a migration file. Okay, and I'll tell you the importance of migration file when we, let's say now we want to edit something. I want to edit the question text to some other thing. I want to add a new column. All those things we can do it in the make migration. So once you have the migration, then you have to say migrate. Migrate will push the data from migration files to the database. Okay, so any table that you create has to be in your models.py, okay, of the project. Okay, if you're doing for the project, if you're doing for the app, you have to do it in the app. But if you do it in the app, you have to register the app with project. So that's why we went to settings and we made an entry for this new app. Okay. If you don't say yes, no, I will not know whether you have
Sir,
understood or not understood. If you have not understood, say no. If you have understood, say yes.
sir, we can SQLite is not visible like MySQL or Postgres.
Okay, in the notes, I have told you how to connect MySQL, Postgres, MariaDB. You can connect anything. Okay. So, but once you make the connection, the working with database is exactly the same. Whether you work with MariaDB or you work with Oracle or you work with Sqlite3. Connection is okay. The connection string will differ. Okay.
No, sir, I just asking that SQLite have no UI.
Sqlite has its UI. Okay, it has it. Okay, but I'll show you. Okay, tomorrow I'll show you how to connect using Python shell to Sqlite3, and we can play with it. Okay, so Sqlite3 does not have a UI installed by itself. You have to install the Sqlite3 UI. So you will get separate. If you just Google and say Sqlite3, okay, you can download it. And I will tell you tomorrow how to connect using Python. Okay, shell. Python shell is like command levels for your Sqlite3. Of course, you can do UI as well. Okay, but mostly we use commands. Okay, command based, what do you call um, the shell script or the command. Okay, to access Sqlite3. Okay, there are various wrappers which are available, which will help you to connect to Sqlite3 in the UI basis. But we will not go into so much. We will just use our shell scripting to do that. Okay. Yes.
Okay, sir.
So what we did, we created a project. We created app. Okay. In app, okay, I want to create a table for this app. So I created a table in models. Okay, I created this table in model, but I need to register this app. So I went to project settings. Okay, in settings, I went and I linked this app. So this is done. So now my application knows that, my project knows that I have an application. Okay, now I created a model. So model, I added the class. Okay, so every table object definition, every database object definition has to be done in the model. So once now we have done in the model, we have to push it to the database. To push it to the database, it has two steps. Make migrations. Make migrations will create a migration file. You can actually see before you permanently save to the database, you can see what you are doing with the database, right? So that's why you have inbuilt step make migration. Okay, so when you create make migration, once you're happy, then you can go and you can say migrate. Migrate, what it does is it will look at all the make migration which has not been migrated. Okay, what it means, if I go and create, if I again do second time I go and do migrate, okay, so what happens, it will check what are files are pending. See, no migrations to apply because it knows that it has already made some changes to the migration files. So when you run it once, or it will look at all the files which has not been processed and process. Okay, second time if I go and make changes here, let's say I want to add a new column, I go and make changes here, but when I give when I say migrate, it will not call because it knows that file 0000001 has been migrated. Okay, so if you have to make some changes, we have to create a new migration file 0002, isn't it? We'll do it tomorrow. Okay, so what we did is now we created a database. Okay, we we linked the app to the project, and we created a class for the data for the table. We created make migration. So make migration will create a migration file and keep it in the folder. And when you say migrate, it will the file to the database. Migrate will only apply to the database those files which have never been applied before or which has never been migrated before. It will only migrate the non-migrated files. Okay, if you run it 10 times also, it is not going to disturb your database because it knows that it has already run, it will not run it. Okay, so these are the steps that we do. So Abhinav has a question. Let me go to the chat. One second. Sir, why we use polls app to make migration? We use polls app to make migration because our model is in polls app only. Okay, we created, where is the code? Yes, we see models. We added our model in the polls app. So that's why we are saying migrate from polls app. So here we have only one app, but you can have 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 apps. Okay, so in such cases, Django should know which app you are migrating, which app you made, changes. So that's why, okay, you will say, okay, earlier I did not give polls. When I said, okay, make migration was already done. Okay, but when you say migrate, you can say migrate polls also. If you say migrate polls, it will look at only polls. Okay, which are the files which are in the polls. But if you do not give polls, it will look for all the apps and all the projects. Okay, it will look for entire, okay, entire content. So since our content that we added, okay, is in models which is under the app, we said migrate or make migrations polls. So we're creating migration files and then we apply to the database. Yes. Now to connect, we use shell. So we say Python, okay, manage.py.shell. This will open up this shell command prompt. Okay, and when we open the shell command prompt, here you can do all the accessing the database. Okay, so it opened this shell prompt. Okay, so what we'll do is we will go and say from polls dot models import question. Okay, so now questions, right? Not question. Okay, so questions. Now if you want to see the data which are the content there in the table, you can say question TIONS questions dot objects dot all. This will fetches all the record from the database. When I hit it, empty set query, okay, giving us empty list because we have not yet added any content to it, right? We have not yet added anything to it. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see how to add, okay, content here. From UI we will add the content to this. Okay, so we'll open UI. From UI we will add content to this file. Okay, so please practice these two things. Okay, I told you it is confusing. So first, okay, 30%, like first 4, 5, 6 classes, you have to be very attentive and practice. Once you're comfortable, then the apps we can develop is faster. But first, you have to know what is models, what are views, okay, what are projects, what are applications, what is managed, what is settings, okay. All those things you have to be comfortable with. So 3 things we have done. We created an app, we created a view, and we created a database table. Yes? Will you practice it today? Tomorrow's session is going to be longer, right? Tomorrow we'll do 1.5 hours. Okay, so please practice it today. It will not take you more than 15 minutes. I'm talking so much and explaining and doing it. That's why it's taking me an hour. But if you do it, I promise you, it will not take you more than 15 minutes. Of course, when you understand what you're doing, then running command, only 5-10 lines of command, you can do it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
Yes. So we'll end it here for today. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Take care. Bye.